Hi, parents. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kelly Svensson. I'm the principal here at Monroe Elementary School. I started making these videos last year at some point because it was easier to communicate some information with everybody. And people who don't know me that well got to know me through these videos since I'm not seeing many of you in person nowadays. So I just wanted to take some time today to share with you some information about reopening Monroe Elementary in these coming days and some things that might be a little bit different from last year. So everything I'm sharing with you in this video is as of the date and time that I'm making this video. So things sometimes change quickly. Today is Monday, August 23rd. It is 11:23 a.m. So if something changes, I will let you know as it does. But as of right now, I feel like I'm saying these words a lot. As of now, here are the rules that we're following for this coming school year. So masks do need to be worn. They're worn by all the adults and children in the building. This is based off of Governor Lamont's Executive Order 13A, and that's in effect until September 30th. We are not wearing masks outside, but we are wearing them as we transition to outside and everywhere inside the building, of course, unless children are eating or drinking. Spacing in the classroom is a little bit different than last year. So last year we were trying to stay to a 6-foot standard, which we knew when we had everyone in, we couldn't meet that 6-foot standard anyway. And desks and tables were definitely, we had kids at 3 feet apart. And this year that's really just the rule. So we're looking for 3 feet apart. I want to bring your attention down here where it says maintain at least 3 feet of physical distance in classrooms when feasible. So we have classrooms that have desks and we are able to keep students 3 feet apart from each other. We also have classrooms that have tables. We had a lot of desks here at Monroe Elementary, and we shared with our other schools, Stepney and Fawn Hollow. Some of our classrooms had to go back to tables, which is really, better classroom instruction and better for collaboration, not so good for COVID. But we do have some rooms, therefore the kids aren't going to be 3 feet apart because they simply can't be. But when feasible and or in classrooms that have desks, students will be 3 feet apart. We are going to be cohorting less. So you remember some people from last year, like we had children staying in their own classrooms, and those are the only students that they really communicated with all day long or even played with at recess. And we are not doing that anymore. We can mix students across cohorts or classrooms. And so they'll have more opportunities for communication and collaboration that way. Here are some examples of some spaces that were already set up. These are some of our, well, actually there's 2 primary classrooms that you're looking at here on the left and in the middle. And then here is a 5th grade classroom. So you'll see that we're looking for student to student to be 3 feet apart. And in these cases they are. Here are some other ways that desks could be configured. So again, we're not looking at kids sitting in rows behind desk shields all facing the same direction. We're loosening that a little bit. They have to be 3 feet apart. They can be facing each other, and they do not need to have the desk shields in place. So here's way that we're sort of grouping children, however, keeping them the 3-foot distance. Quarantine is also going to be a little bit different this year. So students who are 3 feet from each other do not need to quarantine if someone in the classroom gets diagnosed with COVID, as long as they remain asymptomatic and masks were in use. So that term masks were in use comes into play when we look at either children in the cafeteria who maybe aren't having their mask on because they're eating lunch or having snack or that kind of thing. So in terms of quarantining students, children with masks that are less than 3 feet for more than 15 cumulative minutes, the 15-minute part hasn't changed, and across the 24-hour period, that part hasn't changed. We're just looking at 3 feet now instead of 6 feet. Those kids, if they're less than 3 feet, are going to have to quarantine. That shouldn't be many kids. So we're looking at needing to quarantine kids who, if you're in a classroom that has tables, kids who sit at the same table as someone who might be diagnosed. And we're looking at people who sit at the same cafeteria lunch table. And of course, if you're riding near, on the bus next to someone who is diagnosed, those are really the only times that you should be less than 3 feet of someone. The only other part is that if you don't have a mask on, I have to look at 6 feet. That doesn't really impact that much more because in our cafeteria, and I'll show you that next, it'll really just mean that the table where the COVID was diagnosed is going to have to quarantine. But other than that, we're looking to quarantine very few kids if we can get away without doing that. We are shifting to a 7-day quarantine. At one point last year, we were a 14-day quarantine. Then we shifted to a 10. The 7-day quarantine allows a person to test out of the quarantine. You can get tested at day 5, and as long as you're negative, you can come back on day 7 as long as you're asymptomatic. This is different from last year where we had, whole classes going out for 2 weeks at a time. Students can return on day 8. To be honest with you, most of the time we find out that a child is, tested positive for COVID, we're already like 3 or 4 days in. So the quarantine itself is going to be really short. At most, under this guideline, if you do the test out and the 7-day quarantine, at most a child would miss, 5 full days of instruction. Elementary teachers are going to continue to have a Google Classroom with lessons and assignments posted as needed for those that are quarantining. Something that is different, and I know may be troubling for you as a parent, is that we are no longer having live lessons streamed to children who are home in quarantine. This is a district decision, and it applies only to elementary. So middle and high school are doing something a little bit different because those kids are a little bit more independent and can certainly access their classes via video. But at the elementary level, students are going to be working asynchronously based off of assignments that are posted onto the Google Classroom, and they will have an adult check in with them daily. And for how long and exactly what that looks like is still yet to be sorted out, but I just wanted you to be aware of that big change. So if your child is home and needing to quarantine, they will not have live learning, they will have asynchronous learning. Last year's statistics for you. We had, and this is just facts, right? I live in the land of facts, and you can draw your own conclusions from these facts. Monroe Elementary had 33 confirmed cases across our community members, that's staff and students. We had 0 cases that were attributed to in-school spread. So the mitigation factors that we had in place last year seem to have worked because we did not spread it here at Monroe Elementary School. We quarantined several dozen children last year. We quarantined lots of adults last year as well. And 0 of those people who were quarantined as a result of an exposure in school then developed COVID. So this year we're really looking at quarantining as few kids as possible based off of these new regulations. The cafeteria, we are back to a regular hot lunch. Don't forget that it's free. So if you decide that your child is going to have pizza a day or whatever, it is free unless they want doubles. Then they have to pay for the double, but otherwise it's free. We're looking at 4 to 6 students per table. We are going to add in some more tables into the cafeteria to hopefully spread some kids out. But the reality is that the district has asked us to go back to the cafeteria. I know we ate in our rooms last year. We ate outside when we could. This year, we are back in the cafeteria. We are going to space kids out as much as we can. But like I said before, and I'm just trying to be transparent with you, if your child is sitting at lunch with someone who is diagnosed with COVID, they will have to quarantine. There's just simply no way to get them 6 feet from each other across the cafeteria. They will have, for example, a kindergarten will come into the cafeteria and have the cafeteria to themselves for 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, first grade will come in. First grade will share with kindergarten for 15 minutes, but then they'll be in there 15 minutes on their own as well. So there is some overlapping with other grade levels, but it's not for the entire period. And they really should not be interacting with each other across grade levels, particularly in the lunch line. So that's how we're doing the cafeteria this year. Cleaning and disinfecting. I'm just putting this in here just so you know we are no longer quarantining books. We are over thinking that COVID is spread through surfaces, and this is directly from the CDC and the Department of Public Health. So we no longer have someone going around and cleaning doorknobs and things like that. We are certainly going to have kids wipe off desks and tables, and we're going to be clean here at Monroe Elementary for sure. But just our regular cleaning protocols are what we have back in place. Okay, so that's enough about COVID. I have some important things for you to take note of. We do have this parent resource page. I made it for you guys in hopes that it would help you just whatever you need or have a question for. This is up on our Monroe Elementary School website. If you go to the parents tab and scroll down, you'll see parent resources. But this is should answer any questions that you have about if your child's going to be out or what the bus schedules are, or I have a question about hot lunch or school messenger. What are these messages I keep receiving and how do I stop them? And then if you're going to visit or work hard and be kind expectations. So I hope that helps you throughout the year, and I can add more things too as we go. I wanted you to know that we are continuing social emotional learning for your children. So last year, everyone we have in grades 1st through 5th will be familiar with this. It's called the mood meter. It's our version of the mood meter, and children are always identifying how they're feeling and why they're feeling that way. We're going to continue to use that. Kindergartners will also learn as they come in this year. unless they were in preschool, then they know if they were in our preschool. We're going to continue our morning meetings. So we're going to develop classroom communities. We're going to make sure that everyone feels loved and accepted. And I am going to be reading this book, All Are Welcome. I'll be going around the second day of school and reading it to every single classroom. It's a great book just about being inclusive and accepting everybody for really just who they are. So I'm excited to read that book with everybody on Friday. And back to school night is scheduled to be in person. We are asking that we just have one parent per child per classroom so that we can keep a safe distance from everybody in there. And here are some of the times so you can see there. You're welcome to send 2 parents, but have them separate classrooms if you have 2 kids. And I think that was my last one. So this year is definitely going to be a little bit different than it was in years past. And I think we're going to do the best that we can to have a great year. So please reach out with any questions. Email me directly. Please don't reply to the do not reply email address because I don't see those. So email me at ksvenson@monroeps.org. And we're going to do the best we can. And if we have to change or pivot as we go, we certainly will. So hope everyone has a great school year. I'm looking forward to seeing your kids on Thursday. Take care.